Welcome to the Protector Culture Podcast with Jimmy Graham. Jimmy is a veteran U.S. Navy SEAL, a former protective officer for the CIA Global Response Staff, founder and CEO of the Able Shepherd Program, a husband and father of 4, and a personal friend of mine. Now here's Jimmy.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Protector Culture Podcast with Jimmy Graham. I'm your host, Jimmy Graham. BK, what's up with the new digs, man?
The new digs, check
Where are we at? Tell me where we're at.
Professional level recording studio at the Douglas County Library.
We got booted from our studio, man. No, we had classes and we've been trying to up the podcasts to get them out and get more good word to you guys. We've had a lot of requests. People, it's so cool when you hear somebody. Literally, I've had other side of the country. I've had other side of the world saying, hey, I'm hanging on these, but keep them coming.
Yeah, that's great.
How cool is that? I think you know some of these stories, but some guys are like, man, it's all I got right now. Please, I'm in a bad way. Keep them coming. I'm like, roger that.
Yeah, that's one of the first lessons I learned from you, and I think about it every single day. You never know where somebody's at. It's just
never know who's hanging by a thread. And one of the things we talk about is take pictures and video. Like, I was kind of cool guy. There was a bunch of guys that were just kind of cool guy in the SEAL teams, and they didn't really like, oh, look at Mr. Picture Guy. You know, and some guys were good at it. I remember Brian Jennings was good at it, and I wish I would have been better. Just documenting it, because the way I say it is pretty graphic. I've been that guy in the basement, crawling around, looking through Rubbermaid containers, looking for that one physical picture of me and the guy at the thing, you know. And now somebody needs it for a slideshow because something happened, right? So it's incredible. And the videos, you've seen the level of kind of production. I just saw a picture of Balecki, so he's hanging out with Everett.
nice.
I'm like, oh, I miss that dude. What's up, Balecki? Moto Mike. To put that kind of effort into, say, a BDR, an ITB, a lineage ride, a ride for Lance, it doesn't just happen once, it happens forever.
Yep.
That's a big deal. Like, you got to do it. If you do something epic like that, it could be for an evening. It could be a gala. It could be, honoring a parent or grandparent. Record it and put some money into making it kind of cool. I dust that stuff all the time, man. I mean, I was on a podcast. I'll talk about this here in a little bit, but the guy started asking me. He's like, I was reading your book. He said, excellent book. And you never know because people don't really read. You know what I mean? And I don't have an audio version of that book yet. So he's like, I'm reading on a plane, and man, I started bawling about that part where I'm dancing with the back end. I'll let you read the book, whatever. And he was just like, man, I started crying. And while he's talking about it, I'm getting like, whoo, because I just remember exactly the story I was telling. And you just don't know. You get a bunch of books out there, and then you're not hearing much of anything because people aren't reading really, or they're reading slow and all that stuff. And then the guy was like, excellent job, like excellent, like so many good points. So that's good to hear.
So that brings up a good point. You're going to have, say, somebody like Steve Klein do a voiceover, read the book?
Yes, that'd be cool. I don't know. So, there's this guy, man, we're all over the place now. There was a guy named Ken Graves that I recently, and it's such a small world. This dude comes in, because he's a pastor, I should call him dude, at the Warrior Summit this past Saturday. And he comes in, he starts talking, and I'm like, there's no way this is this real dude's voice. I mean, just deep, gravelly, like if he was reading some kind of epic Viking poem.
Yeah.
That's the dude, but it's his real voice. And the guy's got some kind of like pouch on, and I'm like, is that his pipe? Is it a med kit? Some dude's got like tourniquets and all that kind of little leather pouch. And while he's talking, and we would appreciate this, he like just quick draws the Bible out of that thing. It's like a little Bible, and he just starts going. And he's doing this clapping, chanting thing. And I heard one of the other speakers called him a Viking Sean Connery. And I was like, dude, that guy's got to read the book, man. Can you imagine that? The Return of Man. What are you doing? Focus.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's all good stuff. So yeah, the devotions, moving to X. I don't know if we're moving off Facebook, but a lot of people aren't on Facebook, especially our folks, right? Yeah. So I've had a request for X, which we've done. So it's Jimmy Graham on X. And what else? There was something else. I don't know. I don't know if we're going to do Rumble or not. I'm just trying to navigate this whole social media thing. But it's
interesting too, because a couple weeks ago, Zuckerberg said, not that we were, but maybe we'll stop censoring. Say what?
How crazy is that? Yeah. Like when he came on, it's like, I don't know. Part of me was like, well, yay, but how pathetic are you? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that was did we talk about that with the strength thing? I can't remember if we talked about that where it was like, I said it somewhere. It's like when you're the varsity football team and he's the little brother. Yeah. And it's like, hey guys, and just shut up and pay for my soda. Like he's the rich guy that's like hanging out with strength. And I'm like, you can't purchase strength. Yeah. Like you can, I don't mean he can't get strong. He's just not, right? But now the wind's changed. Now he's trying to hang out with the tough guys, meaning the Dana Whites, the Donald Trumps, the Rogans. And then there's this guy, you know, even at the inauguration, you're like, one of these kids doing his own thing. You're like, what's going on, man? So, but anyways, I hope that he hangs out in strength and digs it and then grows into it. So not hold my breath, by the way, because I don't believe it for 1 second, right? No. Like it's like a guy I know around these parts. Should I go down that? Yeah, I'll go down that road. The sheriff and others, we're only going to violate the Constitution a couple times.
Yeah. No.
Right.
No.
Got it. Okay.
But that you bring up a good point with the different platforms.
Yeah.
You know, please be patient with us as we find the right spot. YouTube might be censoring. Facebook probably is. Instagram might be. We have to find that sweet spot that your messaging, your content, your delivery isn't being hidden or we're not tickling the right algorithm or something. So
yeah. Speaking of sheriffs, you know the American Sheriff. Are you familiar with this? Mark Lamb out of Pinal County, Arizona.
Oh yeah,
you know this guy? Yeah. So I run into a SHOT Show.
Okay.
Talking, and he's got people talking to him. So I talked to some of his guys. The dude that one of the guys, I think he's the under sheriff or something, or I forget, but a deputy, and we're chatting and now back and forth. Solid Christian dude. And then I just hit up Mark Lamb. I'm not, is it Mark right? That doesn't sound right. I know so many Lambs, man. I get them mixed up. Kyle. Mark Lamb. It's Mark Lamb. I know Kyle Lamb too, and I know many Lambs. Seems like a stellar dude. And I'm like, hey, we need to get you out here for our grand opening. So I'm already lining up some of these people for the grand opening to bring in, whether it be SEAL team buddies, be like American Sheriff, whether it be, some of these folks that would totally dig it. And once they see it, it's just a done deal. They're going to be like, man, what do you got going on in here? I'm like, well, check this out. All right, boys, you're up. So that's fun stuff all day. All right, so this one's called Man on Fire. We're gonna title this one Man on Fire because I am on fire right now. There's so much stuff going on. It's so cool. If you are bored, it's your own fault because you're not looking for a fight to get into. You're not even looking for purpose because it's dripping off. Now the wind just changed. We were just talking about EPA and what was the other one? Transportation. Maybe making some changes with this ridiculous shackles we've got on with vehicles and Blue Def and all this other just silliness to quote unquote save the planet. It's a good point was made. I forget which speaker said it. Dang it. I think it was Seth Gruber. Man, that's my guy too, man. I love that guy. Trump's a tourniquet, right? He's not a savior. And we've said this many times. You don't elect a savior. I love when he said tourniquet because in our tourniquet class we say, this guy got blasted in the leg. He's pumping out blood. He doesn't need a tourniquet. He needs a surgeon. We need to fix the problem. But we're going to put a tourniquet on to get him to a surgeon, right? So that's just a good visual of this isn't even the solution. We just need to buy some time. So when he said that, it really connected that, this administration, all of the changes that are going on right now, this is a chance to get further down the field. So in 4 years, we don't end up worse, right? In 4 to 8 years, we could end up just worse. He said AOC is the president, and that's no joke. Like the true change that is going to stick is going to be starting this hard in the workout board, right? And if we start doing that now and then figure out that we like it and then we can change, like this nation is we the people. The problem is we the people. And the solution must be we the people, right? The solution is Jesus, but it's within my heart. I've got to pick that. I've got to live it. And I just talk about it. Yeah. It's one of the reasons why I'm on fire. You can't have this caliber of men come in and speak at an engagement and not change you. And when if you're getting driven crazy, we've said this before, and we say this in the circles that I roll with. If you've ever tried wearing those shoes that are too tight, right? It drives you crazy. Like you got to get them off, right? Yeah. And the problem isn't the shoes. The problem is your feet are growing, right? So if you're growing and you're in a job that just doesn't fit anymore, it's because you're growing and it's time to go, right? It's just time to go. Can't even walk another step in these. I'm going to, whatever, cut them off my feet and throw them in the trash, right? It just means it's time to go, right? So it's happening to a lot of guys that I know, a lot of guys and gals, where it's like, this isn't right for me anymore, right? Whether it's a work, church, whatever it is, people are like, I've grown out of this, right? And people are like, oh, you're growing out of Jesus? No, I'm growing towards Jesus. Yeah. I can't be here anymore, right? Sometimes it's told to them and they're nudged. This is how you get rid of somebody in church, right? You just make it so bad that they leave and you say, God called them somewhere else. Yeah. You know this, man. I've just grown up in churches like for so long, and my wife has just been that kind of thing, because they're like, well, if you know any church, and this is the smoke screen, you just, whenever you see it, just yell, smoke out. Smoke out. Smoke out. Because whenever you throw a frag, you say, frag out, whatever. Crash out or smoke out. When you want a smoke screen, you just say, well, they were called smoke out. It's like, let's smoke out there. And then they just go away. So if you really want to, fix a church or something, it's not leave, it's stick around, and then they got to look at you. Okay.
But I think there's a really interesting point here. With Trump coming into office.
Yes.
Full speed, full throttle. There's no brakes. I'm not sure what the boundaries are. And it really seems a polar opposite of where we've been the last 4 years, riding on a moped to now being on a rocket jet.
Yeah.
But I go back to something you teach all day, every day. Know what you stand for.
Yeah.
Right? So we, the people, still have to understand, what is it important to me? What am I going to fight? What hill is mine to take? Because these guys running the ship right now still need direction.
Yes. Yeah. And then you're like, where are the boundaries? Well, here's the problem, and we need to learn from this. The other side, there were no boundaries. They just lost their minds in just a heyday, literally raping our country, right? And our women, by the way, and murdering our children, right? Yeah. So when there's no boundaries, and then all of a sudden there's a change in the winds, it's like, oh, well, I guess there's no boundaries, right? Now, I think the bait is this, and we've talked about this a lot. We can't let the pendulum swing all the way to vengeance. Like, you can't. Yeah. Like, you can't do that and call yourselves the good guys. So if that pendulum swings all the way. And there's that 90s song, Back to Good. Remember that song?
Oh, yeah.
I love that song.
Matchbox 20.
Right? But not all the way. That tied into a part of my life that it's a cool thing, right? But it's not so much that song, because it's talking about some other stuff. But back to good is like this concept of, can we just get back to good? When around here, good equals godly, right? So what does that mean? And it's not really debatable. People know, they just don't want it. They want it or they don't want it, right? So it's going to take the people on top, and I would caution my wife and others to be like, if there's indecency, be careful rooting for indecency just because it's wearing. It just so happens to be wearing a red shirt. Because if that person was wearing a blue shirt, they'd be Beelzebub, right? So you just got to be very careful. And I wouldn't say we're back to like the kind of character that would be desirable or ideal, but this is just not that world, right?
No, and I think I was circling back to your tourniquet comment.
Yeah.
Because the trauma is immediate.
Yeah.
The bleeding must stop.
Yeah.
So the person can be transported to the surgeon to be fixed or repaired.
Yeah.
We are absolutely in a trauma phase.
Yeah.
Arterial blood going everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. And when it gets that bad, because it is that bad, by the way, it'd be like, whatever, this building's on fire, and, I'm unconscious because I've been breathing in smoke, and then some firefighter grabs me, throws me on their shoulders, carry me out here, and it's like, are you a Christian? It's like, I don't really care right now, brother. Get me outside. You know what I mean? So at some point, I'm the dude that'll drag you out of here is who I am, right? And you've heard me say this because I get it. Another smoke out. Nobody's perfect. Nobody's perfect. Nobody's asking for perfect, right? Sometimes the leader's the guy who got us here, period, right? Or the guy that can get us out. And people that are strong, like, oh man, I know so many dudes that are on paper that the strongest guy you'll ever meet. And I wouldn't follow him out of a burning building, right? Yeah. You're like, brother, negative. Like, that's just not going to happen. So there is a time when it's like, character will last forever. Just that's just the deal, right? So if you've got that character, if you are that solid, that man, I'm the cheesy T-shirt guy. So I had this T-shirt that I put on my phone the other day. I don't know if I'll do it or not. And I put, get a job. I recommend 29. And people be like, what? 29 jobs? I'm like, that says Job.
Job.
So in Job 29, it talks exactly about that stellar man we should all aspire to be, right? So you have to look it up, but it's so good. And I think that is timeless. And not only was Job that guy, he got tested to the nth degree, and he was that man on fire, and he's like, just gritting his teeth, and is like, I can't. This is who I must be. And then he came better than Job 29, which is hard to imagine. Like, how do you get better than that? He's lamenting, and he's saying, back in the day, this was me. What happened? I don't know why God did all this, but I'm not going to curse him, right? But I was like, this guy. And you're like, I don't know one guy like that, by the way. No. And then God made him better, ultimately. You're like, oh, that's so good, right? Anyways, I can't wait. Jordan Peterson's doing, I think, a book on Job, and I'm chomping at the bit.
That's awesome to hear, Did you start your Peterson Academy hosting series at Able Shepherd?
So kinda. We didn't really have, we did. We launched, nobody could fit in the thing. So the guys that were like, there was many people that were willing to do it, but the only time we had was during the day. So I was like, we can launch it and see if anybody bites, but I doubt, like 1 in that PM, people are going to be able to show up. So we just kind of put pause on it. I did start it personally, and it's fantastic. It's fantastic. Like the Sermon on the Mount. Now I'm on Boy Crisis, but then I jumped over to on narcissism, which is another guy, and I apologize I don't have his name in front of me, but this is brilliant stuff. It's game-changing, life-changing stuff, right?
And the quick 20-second overview is universities pay the salary of educators. Therefore, you will present their message. So
yes.
Jordan Peterson went to them and said, what if I can give you financial independence and you tell the truth as a person and a scholar and somebody who's...
It's so exciting because, just hearing the trailer, I got excited as an educator of sorts, right? I'm a chaplain, a kids school, but then also I teach for a living, right? So if you're a good instructor, when he said that, he's like, we went to him and said, if you could teach one course, what would it be? Like if the world needed a course, I just wrote a book, right? It's like, and I had to go through this thing of like, if you were going to write something down, like what does God have on your heart that the world needs to hear? Man, that gets so exciting, like you can't sit still, right? Now I'm so I can't focus, I'm not organized, so it took a long time to even get that out. Once you do it, you've done it. So now I've done it. So that kid's book, that God wrote that book, by the way, but it was done in less than 2 weeks, like in my head, right? And then I had to form it up and everything, and that thing's already to the Christian Faith Publishing. They're working on it right now. They did the first edit back. We had sent some stuff back. Check this out. In this library, this is in Parker. You know what the drag queen story hour is, right? Well, we always say this: find what's wrong in the world and do the opposite. I will be sitting in this and many other libraries reading How Do You Love a Fish, a Christian kids book, and I'm going to get every dad, every mom with a kid sitting in here, fill this place up and read that book, and they're going to look at their kids as I do every chapter, like 11 chapters, and 11 times they're going to say, I love you. Proud of you. You're a good kid. I love being your daddy. Thank God if I'm always here for you. I love you always and forever. They're going to say no matter what. And we're going to the next chapter. It's a kid's book. The chapter's like 3 pages. Yeah. So 11 times we're going to go through this, and I'm getting super excited about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's just cool. So to come to a professor and then have them think and say, if there was one class, 8 hours, let's call it 8 1-hour sessions on your heart, what would it be? And we'll pay you very well. And we're gonna put people in the class that really want to learn, because there's always what I teach, and you know this, you've been in enough classes, taught classes, where you're in there looking, and there's always that dude over there that looks like he wants to cut off your skin and wear it around the house, and you're like, what's up with this guy? Like, we might have to square up in the parking lot afterwards. And most of the time afterwards, he's like, this was brilliant. It's the best time I've ever had. He just sucks at communicating, right? Yeah. Because it's a two-way communication for 4 hours in the POP and in our first class, and you're just not sure what's going on. Well, in his mind, he's basically unlearning I don't want to say unlearning, because people are like, oh, I gotta unlearn everything that I ever learned. No, I'm just asking you to grow. You're asking me, so you're telling me I got to forget everything I ever learned. No, I'm asking you to grow, right? That's what he's doing internally while he's looking at you. He's just not in charge of his eyeballs, right? So there's wheels turning, but what he forgot that he left on the I'm going to hunt you down and kill you face. It happens all the time, right? So as a teacher, instructor, you find that smiley, happy person, and then you get stuck on them because that's the person you want to talk to, right? So you're like talking to that person, and then you're like, oh, I forgot. And then you got to go back and check on, Mad Grandpa. So as you're going back and forth, so he's like, what if we gave you, like, students that want to learn, they want to be there to learn the thing. We'll record it. You just do your thing. Like, just prepare 1 hour. That's like a dream, right? So it makes you think, what would I talk about? And obviously I would talk about pursuing the hearts of men and then protecting children, teaching and protecting. But it gets your mind flowing of like that. So then you go and you get to pick, and you're like, I want to go down this road. So I want to see Jordan Peterson break down psychologically Sermon on the Mount. And you're kind of like, oh, here we go. Careful, man. Sacrilege. It's so good.
And it's really important to understand that, let's pick a time. This is not accurate. 5 years ago, he may not have believed in God.
Yeah.
He found God through his research, through his studies, and now he's teaching it back.
Yes.
That is
powerful. And it is.
authentic.
There's such a lesson in a man that won't be told what to say and what to do. Yeah. And then he's going to talk about the Bible. And there will be pastors passing smooth out all over the country, and it's hilarious, right? It's hilarious. Because I've literally heard pastors like, oh, you're going to listen to this guy, and, we shouldn't listen to him, and the God says guy. It's amazing how God says so much about people that are drawn to people that aren't you. Mm-hmm. Like, it's like, why do I want to, like, when you get to a place and you don't want to get out of the car, I'm like, man, it's 20 more minutes. I know the meeting's at 10, but it's only 20 more, it's like that kind of thing. That's what you're doing, but it's education. So imagine going to a class and you didn't want to leave. Remember, like, the classes when we would teach and nobody went in front by midnight? Like, you're like,
the class is 5 to 7 and you're still there at midnight.
Dang it, I'm at my destination. I wish my work was farther away. Man, that's really good stuff. And I can remember, Jack Hibbs, Alistair Begg. I remember that guy. He's a Scottish voice. He's a preacher all over the country. So I remember driving in the middle of nowhere, and that dude would just start talking, and then I'd get there. I'm like, I'm just gonna sit in the truck for 2 hours or whatever it was, right? It's kind of that again, because I'm so intrigued by the thing. Even the narcissism thing, it came up in a conversation in a real world situation. And that's the best. That's when I learned the best, is when this is applicable now. It's real world, maybe life saving, at least life changing. But I need to know a little bit about this right now because I'm living it, right? So now you're clinging to every word, going, with the whole time being 100% transparent, saying that narcissist might be me, So that's just such a big deal. When and I've heard this with Seth, Gruber, with Jordan Peterson, with all these people, like, and even in my pastor talking about this, like, don't think that's not you. You're thinking, oh, it's just me. I'm a Christian guy. It's like, no, you're a razor's edge away from being the worst person on this planet, right? And it's that power under voluntary self-control. It's that formidable. It's like all of this is mashing together at a beautiful time right now in my life, where this is like, like we just said, if you're not in a fight, it's because you don't want to be, because there's a bunch of them going on, right? So I think there's a bunch of warriors that are about to step back in the arena, meaning literally veteran warriors, right, that think there's no place for them. I'm like, oh, brother, you need to learn new warfare. Like, if you're trying to do it with like a bayonet and your Glock, that's not what we're talking about. I'm talking about they're sneaking under the wire and killing your children, and you're letting them because you're clutching your pistol. That's like not what I'm talking about. So be that dangerous dude, but just redefine dangerous, right? In the book we talk about good dangerous, bad dangerous. Be good dangerous spiritually. Be good dangerous mentally. Be good dangerous physically, right? Like that. Oh man, what was it?
And it's important, that order.
Oh,
spiritual,
it's got to be that
mental,
order. Like, it's like, I remember something, I'm going to mess it up, but it was like be that guy that when your feet hit the floor, Satan goes, oh crap, he's up.
Oh boy.
It's like that kind of thing. And it's not me, it's Christ within me. It's like, oh man, Jesus' kid just woke up. Yeah. Everybody just take a break. You know what I mean? You'll go to sleep in here in about, 20 hours. It's my schedule. So looking back, SHOT Show. So we haven't talked since SHOT Show, right?
Yeah, our last podcast with Al, I think it was a Thursday, and you left maybe a week after, 5 to 6 days after. Did you break your 20-day fast before you went to SHOT Show this year?
I'm in Las Vegas, and it's important that it's prayer and fasting. So my church, Brave Church, says prayer and fasting. So it's not just fasting. I pray, like, anyways. Like, I never understood pray without ceasing. I kind of get it now. Like, I'm starting to, right? So especially when I'm fasting. My Pastor Jeff talks about it being it supercharges. Like, your fasting supercharges prayer. So you just pray all the time, right? But then when you fast, it's so hard to explain. I can't believe what happens twice a year now when I fast for 21 days. And I don't eat on Tuesdays, and this is boasting, look at me. It's me encouraging you to do it because I can't fully explain it, nor do I care to, right?
The piece that resonated for me was when you told me during the fast, you're going to get hungry. You're going to have a craving, and you would replace it with, God, feed me.
Feed me. Yeah.
And all of a sudden, the antennas are going up, the receivers are up.
You forget you're hungry.
Hearing
so
what he's saying.
That you forget you're hungry, right? And it happens all day, and you're like, whoa.
That builds you up.
Yeah. It's unbelievable. And that happened. So, we walk into SHOT Show, right? And it's me and Seth, and Seth, not Gruber Gamble, that works with us. Brought him on for sales, marketing, and he gets roped into everything else because he's good at it. And his wife, Heather, God bless him, with these like Instagrams come alive because they're just like making it cool, right? And not even part of his job, but he's like, yeah, man, whatever. Let's just get after it. And we go down there and run into Stuart, and that's a whole other story, man. Stuart Mullins is helping us in just amazing ways because, what we're aspiring to do, I'm everywhere, and I love it. That's a problem. It's like I'm all over the place, hard to focus. But I'm getting so much done in so many areas. It's like, whatever. So to sit down with spreadsheets is just not my jam. You know that. The guy who loves spreadsheets. So it's not just that. It's all of it. So he's building this thing. And I'll just say it this way. Why wouldn't you, if you're lost, why wouldn't you follow a guy that not only has a map, but he's been there before, many times before, right? So that's what we've done. So invested some money, headed down a road, and I started learning. And it's like, sometimes you just get with people that just can explain things so you understand
Well, you need to hear it.
Oh, okay. I'm starting to get this, right? And I'm just that simple kind of fella. Some things are hard for me to learn, but here's the beauty of it. Once I learn, I can teach anybody. Yeah. So that's like, once I learn how to do this, I'm like, oh, well, why didn't you say it like this? And then I'll say it in a way where people go, oh, this is so easy. I'm like, well, not for me, it wasn't, right? We did that with tactics. We just needed stories. We needed stories. We needed to name positions. Now we teach, entries in 6 hours. Unheard of, right? But people pass. Then we do it again with an AR, and people pass, right? So he's just that guy. So I'm really excited about what's going on. Doug and Brad at Range Systems are going to build our range, and those guys are just something special happened 2 years ago, not this past year, but the SHOT Show before, and we went out to dinner, and I'm like, well, I was fasting then too, right? And then they said, well, it's like a diet? I'm like, no, it's a thing due to my faith. Well, that opens up a whole other line of conversation that's just honest. And I'm not going to speak for them, but I get the feeling that this isn't normal Las Vegas SHOT Show talk, right? Yeah. So we just go down a road that they were glad we went down, and now we've kind of got a different relationship, right? So when you look at a guy and you say, hey, brother, you've done 30 SHOT Shows. I'm going to ask you to introduce me to everybody. He goes, I wouldn't do that to you. I'll introduce you to the right people. And I'm like, I appreciate that, right? So now all of a sudden, that's just a huge character statement. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's fantastic. And then Marty Daniel. So I don't know him well. I won't pretend I do, but I've talked to him several times. And now, now every time. So last year, talked about it with Shepherd, give him a coin, not a coin, a card, and Able Nation, and we talked. And he invited me down to Georgia to tour the facility, and then asked about any kind of support. We just got busy, right? This year, hit him up, Marty, hey, I'm going to take you up on that thing. Yeah, do it, Jimmy, I'm at it. And talking about support and some cool things we've got called Forging the Future. And I'm not going to get too far into that because it's a little bit of my little OPSEC because I got a secret mission going on. But what do we do to make better, more capable, more men out there that not only have the heart but the capability? Yeah. And I got a plan. Involves Marty Daniel, as you can imagine. I mean, you know where this is going, and it's just going to be goodness. And then Jeff in April. So if that's guns.com, and just two amazing people that we met and spent some time with. So, anyways, and that was they was the guns.com party, and man, so 21 days of prayer and fasting, and I won't use names. We met a lot of people, talked to a lot of people. Some people in the industry were like, I'm kind of getting a check here, and I don't care to go over and meet that person. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to go over and shake. People are like, ooh, look at that so-and-so. I'm like, I'm going to pass on that one, And I'm not judging. Yeah, I am judging them. People say, don't judge, and it's not condemning them to hell. The way you live your life, you do judge people. I judge people. I'm just honest about it. You do too. So does everybody watching, right? It's like you can say it a different way. Classify or categorize people. Like there's you can act in a way where you just classified yourself as the dude that'll never be in my house. That's just the truth, right? So that's what we all do every day, and that's what I did too. So this is what happens. You start seeing the cool stuff at SHOT Show, and I don't know that there's anything earth-shattering. Well, maybe the DD M4V7P is back. That's my gun, man.
Your baby.
I love that gun. It's just, and you know what I did? I suppressed it, and it changed the gun. I don't like it anymore.
Knock the balance out of whack.
It's a good gun. It's nothing wrong with the gun, but when you suppress that gun on the end and pin it for legal reasons, it changed it. But it was dang near perfect to begin with. And I got another barrel, so I'm just switching it back, right? So I switched out of upper, and now we're back, and now legally it's back for 30 seconds in Colorado, right? But it's just, you know the deal. When you run and you find that extension of you, and everything seems to be right, and now it's back. So it's not a new thing, it's just back. So that was my number one pick when we did our top picks from SHOT Show. But none of that was anything compared to the relationships. So when you get to talk to people on a real level like that, whether it be a SEAL team guy, whether it be, we were heading up to our room. Let me think about this. Oh, we had that dinner with Doug and Brad, and then we started leaving, and I see Gillies. You know what Gillies is? It's a country bar in Texas. Anyways, they got one in Vegas, and I'm like, man, I've never been to Gillies. I think I'm gonna grab beer. Jason's like, I'm with you. Seth's like, I'm gonna go process some videos. So he goes up, and it's early yet, so we go down there. And it's huge. Go in there, and this guy's just nailing it. His name's Michael Austin, because I talked to him and got his card out of Nashville, Tennessee. And I think he's in the gun and tactical world, actually. So I'm going to reach out to him. Just sometimes it's just I told him, you were the soundtrack to something amazing. Like tonight was just, it was from God. Okay. And the background was like 90s country and you. And it was just, it was so cool. And I'm just standing there, and somebody touches it doesn't matter who, somebody touches my elbow. I look back, and it's a guy that we met 2 years ago, and his wife. And we just start talking. And again, this isn't normal SHOT Show. I just get a feeling. Before you know it, there's tears. There's deep, deep conversation. Like that, my heart longs for deeper conversation, kind of conversation.
Real conversation.
That people don't have anymore. That's unfortunate, right? They just want to, that iron could sharpen iron, but who's got time for that? Well, we made time, right? And it was just awesome. One of those where I'm like, I'm not going to be the one that says I'm tired and I'm going to bed, even though I am. Yeah. And I'm looking at myself like, ooh, it's like really, I'm like, I will sit here and have this kind of conversation all night. And then at one point, Jay's over there, and we just, every once in a while, Jay looks over and shoots me a glance, and I'm like, can you believe that God is using us for what's happening right here, right? And there's tears both ways. I'm not just going to say that, that, oh yeah, there was a lady there, she was crying. No, that was this dude, But it was that kind of deal. Just this divinely inspired interaction. And then, husband takes wife's hand. They walk to the dance floor. And I look at Jay, and I'm like, it's time to go. And we just exit stage left, and I just text him, love you guys, God bless you. And just, it was just, that doesn't happen enough. Yeah. You know what I mean? To where it was just everybody walked away better. And then, like at 1:15, 1:45, must have, headed home or something like that. And I get this text, from this guy. He's like, what just happened? It's like, can we keep this conversation going? I'm like, we
absolutely.
can. We can. Yep. Right. So it's just gold. So when that prayer and fasting, good luck explaining that, right? We're called to do it, and then you do it, and you don't give to get. But when you do it, there's a physical, I lost 15 pounds. There's a physical thing. There's a spiritual thing that it's unbelievable. And it's an obedience. And I just talk to God all day long.
Yeah, I can't get my head around all the different aspects in terms of there has to be a physical piece where you're purging just, I don't know, a bag of Skittles or a hot dog.
Yeah.
You're just getting rid of junk.
Yeah.
You're replacing it with water, so now you're flushing the systems. I know we've talked before that, let's say 7 days, every cell in the human body recreates.
Yeah.
So now you have 3 cycles of that. You're a lean, clean machine. Now your brain is clear, and your spirit is just receiving everything. It's like, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It sounds like a pretty good prescription.
Yeah, how is that bad? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you were made for that. Like it's that, food turns into fuel again. Where we just live in America, and I know not everybody is like this, but it's I'm hungry, so I eat. Yeah. Right? It's like it's just time to eat. I'm not even really that hungry, but I eat. It's like you're just always eating. It's such a part of your culture that I'd find myself just staring at the refrigerator, knowing I can't eat. It's just what you do. You walk down, you're bored, you open the refrigerator, right? But then I was like, nope. What am I doing? Shut it, and after a while, you just stop doing that. You start doing something else. Maybe get on your knees, read a book, just whatever, get the Bible. Yeah, you just got to do it. Like that's just the deal. You just got to do it.
And what I picked up there was now you're acting with purpose.
Yeah.
You're not walking to the fridge because you're bored and you want to chew on something that goes crunch.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I'm going to put some thought into this, and then I'm going to do that.
Right. And I don't I just heard, was Seneca? No. Man, one of the brilliant speakers said this weekend, and it was somebody from, I don't even know who it was. He was quoting somebody. And he said, a man has as many masters as he has vices.
Yeah.
And I was like, ooh, because food can be a vice, alcohol, drugs, porn, any of that stuff can be a vice. I'm like, I don't like anything telling me what to do unless it's Christ.
Yeah.
Anything, like I'm addicted or whatever. It's like, no, we're not doing that, right? So then I break all that at Del Frisco's. So I sent a picture to somebody, and they said, oh, how was dinner? What was your first meal? And I said, there's a smart way to break a fast. And I think a rule is something like take half
not at Arby's on a road trip back from a men's mission.
Right. It just happened. I think it's something about you half the time to get back to your normal, whatever. And I said, there's a smart way to break a fast. And I put, I've never been that smart. And I put a picture of this. It just perfectly cooked filet. It's cut 2 diver scallops. I know exactly what it was. It was asparagus, a little serving of mashed potatoes, and then lobster mac and cheese.
And was this still a
Are
double
you
date?
Kidding. This is a triple date, actually, and with some friends. And one of those deals where you're like, you referred somebody and they're like saying thank you. So I thought that's what it was. It was like, hey, thanks, we did a thing. And it wasn't that. Again, here we go with one of the guys was like, there's 2 things I've done, and I hope I get this right. There's 2 things that I've done since becoming an attorney that reminded me why I wanted to be an attorney, and they both involved you. And I'm like, really? And it was like, yeah. So one of them was standing for children in Castle Rock and just taking the arrows like a man left and right and talking to these responsible police commanders and saying, listen, you tell me I broke the law and you can arrest me, but I didn't break the law. We're talking. Then finally, like, stand down. This man has not broken the law, right? Really appreciate that. Knowing that the SWAT team was around the corner, knowing that they're like, we might have to arrest Jimmy Graham, all that stuff. One problem, we never broke the law, right? So he was like, that was amazing. And another one, unfortunately, involving a fatality up in Vale of a Child, and somebody needed help. And they said, do you have a Christian attorney, somebody you trust? I was like, I do. So made a phone call, worked out. As I understand it, they handled that tragedy as best you can, right, to make sure that it didn't get sideways into lawsuits. Let's go talk to insurance. Let's talk to these people. Let's go cry with this family. Let's walk them through this. And that's good. Like it's just the way it should be, right? So you talk about just blindsided in a good way, and all our wives are there, and we're just having a conversation as folks should. But it was the best meal I've ever had in my life.
Good. You deserved it.
I'm like, there were probably tears. Like, I couldn't see me, but there were probably tears. They were like, how is it? I'm like, shh, don't talk.
I'm processing.
Beautiful night, beautiful food, beautiful company. Okay, so again, Man on Fire, the Warrior Summit. So every year my church does this summit, and it's always just full of, the speakers. This is the best one they've done thus far. So there's 3 that I've been to. They call it the second annual, and I'm not sure what that's about because I know I've been to 3. So anyways, one was called Warrior Night, one was called Battle Ready, this one called Warrior Summit. And man, it was so good. Like that guy was talking about, and I said, amazing. But so, and we're going to talk about, and I'm going to get all these, you're talking about the church. Yes, I am. Our pastor comes out, welcomes everybody. Ken Graves, Viking Sean Connery. You got to look this guy up, man. I'm going to send you a link after we're done. Maybe we could put a link of him just talking, because it's like
that Scottish brogue thing.
Right. Like, am I in like a Lord of the Rings kind of like movie? Like, what's going on right now? But it was, man, was he over masculine? He was masculine, but I think it was appropriate because we've just been such a butterfly factory in this country, right? So it was just welcomed. I was like, oh man, check this dude out, right? Because at first, like I saw, you see the little, like this dude has a quick draw Bible. I'm like, huzzah, in this word. And I'm like, did he even look? And I'm like, I think he holstered without looking. You know, it's just all the stuff that we geek out on, right? But it was a word of God and talking about being a sword, and he's got it sheathed on his, it was just fantastic. But his message was solid. Let me think of just a couple takeaways. He talked about a scale, the man scale, from what happened, like something between Mr. Rogers and Mr. T.
Okay, yeah.
But he's like Mr. T and his scrappy Rocky, you know, like that whole thing. And he was exactly right. He was calling out the church, right? Talking about that where the church in America is in this state because of this. Of course, it's not every church, right? Of course, it's not, but they're few and far between. And then it was Jeff Schwarzentraub, Ken Graves, Travis Johnson, also awesome, Brock Howard, I think he's a football player, and Seth Gruber. And Seth is my guy, man. That guy, you talk about firing people up. So they were the bookends. So Ken kicked it off, and Seth brought it home. Everybody had, you know, good message to say. Actually, Jeff kicked it off, I believe, but he spoke throughout. He's out saving babies. Are you familiar with White Rose Resistance, Seth Gruber?
I was just going to ask you, did we run a security event for him at a church off of like Arapahoe in Yosemite? Todd Brock was the lead.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
And we
Dots are
first
connected
met him,
now.
though, when we shared the stage at Western Conservative Summit.
Yeah.
So he spoke before I did. Then I spoke, and then we linked up afterwards. He's like, "Brother, you nailed it." I'm like, "Brother, you nailed it." And then afterwards, he was, you know, like it was there's a fire pit out there at the Gaylord. Caught up with him. That's when we first connected. And I've seen him throughout, and we text back and forth. He's always saying we're going to shoot, but he's always running so tight. You know, I'm like, hey, man, so with that new facility, again, get there, brother. Just get there. We will take care of you. But it was beautiful. The part when I said amazing but is that pretty much to a man, everybody talks about the church, and I think even at one point it was like any idiot can talk about the church. Every one of you talked about the church, right? And I think, again, smoke out. Everybody pretends the problem is the church, like every church but this one. So I don't, in a group of men like that, it would be great to see transparency. And yes, this is, and if you want to call me talk about it, and I'll give you my number. You look at all these 1,700 men and tell them there's a problem in the church, in the world, but not this church. And I'm like, no, this church. And not you men. And I'm like, no, you men, right? And I get to put my money where my mouth is because this Saturday I'm speaking, right? And I get it. Heckle me. You can say whatever you want. It doesn't bother me one bit, right? Because I know who I am and I know whose I am. And I'll look right at the dude who wrote me the check and I'll tell him the problem's you. Yeah. And the solution's you. And if what aren't you doing? So get after it, right? And that's the part that I think is it's just a little bit. And at first, you know, I'm hypercritical on kind of everything. So I spent a lot of time in prayer, praying about this. And then somebody else said it today, you know, and you know, it was Parker. And he was like, hey, did you feel? I'm like, ooh. So it wasn't just me. And I'm sure there's many men, but it just gives, as you know, when we say, what are we going to do? We change that to what are you going to do? Because we give you a hiding spot. Yep. So if you tell guys that there's a problem in the world, but it ain't you, it's a lie. It's a lie, right? You look them in the eyes and say, it's you. It's actually you, right? You talk a lot, but you don't do, right? You do a good production on Sunday. Once a year, you get together and act like men. What are you doing? And if you don't like the truth, change you because the truth don't change, right? It's like, oh, the pastor said, now God said, like Jesus Christ said, I don't want to hear about it, right? Oh, you can't talk about the bride. No, you can actually. The vision that came to my mind was, remember like Anna Nicole Smith, is that right? Anna Nicole Smith, is that a person?
Big personality, lots of blonde hair.
Yes, yes. Remember when she circled the drain and there was a whole TV crew, there were shows about, she was dying. And it was disgusting, and the world couldn't get enough of it. So they just kept pouring gas on that fire till she burned up, right? That was the deal. So are you doing her any favors by not saying something about maybe somebody's bride, right? So it's like, I don't think God has a sense of humor about this. No. It's like, hey, man, you don't get a pass because you're a pastor, right? So step up. So and I'm seeing it across this nation. So I go all over the country, and I see the same thing where everybody goes, there's a problem in America, and it's the church. But not this one. I'm like, all right. Thought this was a men's seminar. So it was amazing. I don't want to take anything away from it, but, and I prayed a lot before I said that because I know that you cannot go ripping churches apart. I know also that there's a problem. You need to have the balls to talk about it, right?
Yeah.
We do a seminar called Facing Evil. Say, if you can't look at it, you can't face it. And if men can't face it, it'll grow and it'll fester, right? So we're not doing that. So, like I said, big ones line up, little ones pair up.
Every time I hear that, Gary Ellis.
By the way, Gary Ellis, we're doing a podcast. You know this, right?
Okay.
And we were talking, and he's like, "Man, we can't do this in Zoom. I'm getting on a plane, so he's gonna fly here. We're gonna have a revisit, and we're getting after it.
Oh,
so
I
that's
cannot
probably gonna
wait
be.
to see him.
Did he say March? I forget. I'll check with him, and maybe we can find some train tracks and a biker gang, and what else did we have? Planes going over,
Or a room with sound padding and
yeah, we're
green
just
screen. I'm just saying.
Come to our new borrowed studio. Okay, so the follow through. Yeah, we'll see how we follow through with this men's thing because it's getting old. Unite the Clans, and I had to write that down. So Unite the Clans. We are doing this thing this Saturday, and this is the opposite. So this is that church that says, "Do me a favor and don't mention the church. I don't care about this." They didn't say that. It's not about this church. It's about the church. It's about the kingdom. And these men are on fire. So part of this Men on Fire thing has been honored. They asked me to come speak because they saw the same thing. And they're going the other way. Don't make this about us, right? Make it about this. And their goal, and they've been praying and praying. Their meetings are just heartfelt and prayer and all this stuff about these men, about hundreds of men. It's not going to be 1,700, I know that. It's going to be hopefully 400, right? So 400 plate dinner with the objective of truly starting an army because they will be recruiting. Now it's like, I can't make you do anything, but I can leave you with a QR code to where I'm calling you out. I'm officially calling you out. You keep that coin in your pocket, little poker chip thing. It says, what does it say? Don't gamble with eternity. And it's beep. Now when they look at it, there'll be a schedule on where to stand. And it might not be Brave Church. It might not be ABC Church. It might not be whatever. It might be meet me at the courthouse. It might be come pray at the abortion clinic. It might be stand on a bridge and protect women from getting, hip checked and shot, like didn't get shot, but brandished a gun. All that stuff is real world. It's really going on right now, right? So you can talk about it on Sunday, or you can get out and do something and then celebrate on Sunday, right? Get recharged on Sunday, recommissioned on Sunday. So churches like to commission people, but then not let them work. It's like, just don't even, what are you doing? So I told my church, if you're starting an army, then I'll run the special operations. You don't even know what we're doing. But I guarantee you it'll be Christ-centered, right? And they like it in theory. Yesterday, the Kinetic Man podcast with David and Stuart. This is, again, just Man on Fire. They're just pouring fuel on this because it just aired. I was listening to it on the way here. And sometimes, when you listen, when you do something, like when you talk about these, I don't really remember what we talked about until I hear it again, right? And that was this one. Listening to it, just a couple dudes, couple dads, couple vets, helicopter pilots, and we got connected and jumped on there. And even just like talking, if you read about their podcast, again, the Kinetic Man podcast, they're based right here out of Parker, Colorado. Uncommon life, lives of action, celebrated by their wives, men their daughters want to marry, sons want to be. You sound familiar? Men their friends call brother. So like even in their write-up, you're like, these are our people, man. I not know these people, right? So to hang out with them and be on their podcast and just go back and forth and talk about real stuff and what are we going to do about it. So all of these people that we've talked about, we're going to be doing something together. I don't know what, right? Check this out. This is Small World. Ken Graves, guess where he lives? I know that's pretty.
I'm going to say Castle Rock. I don't know.
He lives in Bangor, Maine. Guess who goes to his church?
Nick.
Yes. Wow. Or at least that's been his pastor for years.
Oh, my goodness.
Until he started this other church, right? And he goes, yeah, that's my pastor. I was like, what? He's like, yeah, I went there for years for whatever. I'm like, so you know this Viking Sean Connery? He's like, dude, the guy's insane, right? So it's awesome. So I'm like, hey, can you do an introduction? And we're supposed to be out there in October. Can you line? He's like, yeah, I'm done. So we're already going to line that up, right? Seth Gruber, that's already my guy, man. So we've got that all figured out. And these other guys, it's just, I don't believe in accidents. I don't believe in coincidence, right? Even praying that the men's ministry thing is that Brave figures that out. That's a blessing, and that we become something unbelievable. That man. Everywhere I turn, there's men on fire, and they just want to go, right? So that's going to be like I said. What's tomorrow? I feel like there's something tomorrow. Oh yeah, First Tuesdays. So at Brave Church, every first Tuesday, we get together for communal prayer. And it'll be full, and there's just people praying. There'll be a song set, and I'll move, pray. You just pray like, hey, God, give me someone to pray with. And every time it's just been these amazing people. And they don't know me, not before or after, but some dude prayed with me, right? And there's just cool stories that happen, and I believe it's powerful because I believe in prayer. And then the Ignition Men's Cadres, Tuesdays at 6:30, and that just happens to be the day. Didn't plan it that way, but that's the day that I'm not eating, so I'm fasting on Tuesdays. I invite you guys to do the same. It's life-changing. It's super cool. Enough to where Melissa, who's going to be on a podcast, we keep bumping and trying to get schedules and all that stuff. We'd have a saying. She's like, of course it did. It's Tuesday. Guess what happened? This happened. Of course it did. It's Tuesday. And it's like, now stuff happens all the time, but Tuesdays really stood out. Drip Cafe on the 7th. That's just basically have coffee, maybe a sandwich. Praise Jesus. Yes, it's in a Denver coffee shop, and there's people that hit you outside, and they're yelling at you. Don't take the bait. It's good practice. Just stand tall, do your thing. And why? Because you're a Christian man or woman. We had that place packed out several weeks ago, and it was an amazing thing. It was an amazing thing. You just feel it. It's in the air. Yeah. And people were just loving each other, and they were singing and praising and all that stuff. It's just music pouring out in the street into the streets of Denver on Santa Fe there. And then Men Who Make a Difference. So that's coming up Saturday. This will probably, I don't know if this will air before that or not, but Saturday, February 8th. Bro, I forgot to write this down. So my brother-in-law, who is an amazing man, as you know, we moved to Colorado for a family.
Yeah. Yep.
Right? Mm-hmm. This happens. We moved here for that. Like my wife was like, we want to raise our children with your children. It's like her sister, right? They look like twins, her sister. Unfortunately, we lost her sister to cancer. Yeah. She's my age, and just a beautiful woman, just inside and out, heart of gold, one of my heroes, actually. Just kind of lost touch with, they moved to Arizona. The whole family went down there for her treatment. Wasn't successful in that light. She's with the Lord now, and then he got remarried, and we just kind of lost touch. He calls me the other day and asks if he can come to, he's like, hey, you invited me to, I was going to take you up on that invitation. I'm like, which one's that? He said, everyone just fly in, hang out, and talk. I'm like, absolutely, when?
Here's the address.
Next week? I'm like, yeah. The answer is yes. Let's just figure it out, right? So I'm like, when are you coming in? He's like, Friday. I'm like, you want to go get some coffee? Like at night? He's like, what? I'm like, yeah, there's this activism thing we're doing. And he's like, kind of laughed. He's like, sure, let's do it. I go, when are you leaving? Like Saturday day. Can you stay till Saturday night? Because I'm speaking at this men's thing. He's like, yeah. So now he's going to stay in for that, and I'm going to get to hang out with him and just chat, man, see what's up. But I absolutely love the guy, Jason Steffen. I love you, Jason Steffen. Brother-in-law, like that whole thing when you lose somebody, that thing doesn't go away, right? No. So it's uncomfortable, and I get it, time and distance and all that kind of stuff, but it was real the first time, right? Yeah. Like I remember sitting there, my wife doesn't really listen to the podcast anyways, but I remember sitting out in the front of it, we stayed. This came out of the book, so that there will be another book at some point, but it was called Unfinished Basements. Yeah. Do you remember that conversation? We moved from Montana to Colorado and lived in their basement. Put everything in storage and moved into their unfinished basement. Like me and, Rachel, myself, and the two girls. Two girls, yep. One born in Virginia, one born in Montana. And we moved into their unfinished basement, right? And then when she got sick, they moved into our unfinished basement while they were finalizing stuff. And we kept the boys, and Sierra stayed with Grandma and Grandpa and all that stuff. But there's there's something very vulnerable about exposing the ugly part of your house, right? But the houses were both filled with love, and it was just we didn't know that the rest of the story, as they say, right? And then that became precious gold, like that time, in Jason and Rebecca's basement was just a very special time. And it's funny because now the kids are old enough, and they're like, they got a book for Christmas, and they're like, so the Benghazi thing, like, yeah, I was in your basement, like you used to leave, and we didn't know where you went. I'm like, yeah, I was going to Libya. They're like, what? Like, what? Another man? And they're like, what? Like, what's going on? I'm like, this for real? Like, you went to Libya? Like, yeah, I was going to Libya. And we bought then we rented a house down the street, and then we bought it, and you lived in our basement and all that stuff. That was 2012, man. That was September. Yeah. That was, like, oh my goodness, So that's crazy. So I'm really, really looking forward to that. And again, I believe that's an answer to prayer. Praying that, but I can remember sitting outside that house when Rachel and I were having our stuff from living in a basement, and trying to get our stuff, all squared away. and just outside praying and talking about real stuff, and then praying for my marriage and talking about, hey, you get there, man. This is part of it, and it was real. So pray that I get to return the favor this week. And then February 22nd, facing evil and defend the flock. So facing evil, we mentioned that briefly. There's a couple more things. Let me scroll down. Facing evil seminar is not for children.
No.
I would say it's mandatory for protectors. So if you're a security guard, if you're a policeman, if you're a person that, actually, if there's anybody that is willing to look at what man will do to man, right? So we found some pretty nasty. One's a massacre. It's a straight up massacre. There's a
New Zealand?
Yeah, New Zealand. This guy just shoots people up like they're nothing, and it goes on for 6 or 7 minutes. But what it teaches you is what can happen in 6 minutes. You're like, oh my goodness. Like when, I don't accidentally say regarding school shooting, seconds, not minutes. I don't want to hear about minutes. Well, I don't want to hear about any of this happening. If you can prevent it even better, it's just not realistic. So when it happens, I want a solution on scene in seconds. I want this thing neutralized, right? So don't tell me about minutes. I got 4 school-age kids. So we do a seminar where people can talk about this, and we talk about real measures. It's called Facing Evil, and they have to watch these videos, and then we discuss them. We watch another one. We discuss them. We say, do you see what's going on in our society? This is actually systematically happening. We're mass-producing crazy people, right? We should be mass-producing healthy people. So what's going to stop this person? A man or a woman saying to get to them, you got to go through me, and it's winner take all. That's the deal. That's exactly the deal, right? So talked about this a little bit because I'm helping a young man out with his thesis or whatever you call it for a senior paper on school security, and I'm pulling up, stuff from Sandy Hook, back then where there were 2 people that had the heart but not the capability. One's a psychiatrist, one's a principal. You can't just say stop it, right? And then unfortunately they were murdered, and they are heroes, by the way. They're heroes. Stepped over top of them and shot a bunch of 6 and 7-year-olds. That's my daughter's age, right? You know what? Back then when it happened, that was my daughter's age. Yeah. Different daughters, right? So when I think about that, it infuriates me, right? But it says, who's going to stop them? Me.
And
You.
I would ask or question, if you're watching or listening, what environment are you in? Because I was exposed to some of that at a young age. So yeah, it's traumatic.
Yeah.
When you see evil, you can point to it and say, there it is. Some of the people in our zip code, they don't leave the bubble. They don't know that somebody will walk up and punch you in the face.
Yeah.
Stab you in the eye.
Yeah.
This happens for real.
Yeah.
And I would like to see how they get over that hurdle or come to grips with the topics you're presenting, because it happens. Let's talk about it. Let's
even
deal
in
with
the classes we teach, you'll see people that have better SA, situational awareness. And you're like, hey, where are you from? New Orleans? You're like, I bet, or you name it. There's just different pockets of this country now we happen to live. And you should aspire to move to a safe neighborhood to raise your children. That should be the goal. They shouldn't have to grow up like that anywhere. But that's just the reality is, I'll just stay in Castle Rock. Well, there's no fences. Like that can walk right over the border, and is, by the way. If you talk to your police officer buddies, if they're honest and they're not trying to paint the picture of a safe town, they'll tell you the truth. Like, this is what's...
You mean like Aurora? There's no problem here.
Yeah, we're good. We're good. It's like, what's up with the dudes in the videos with the guns? Nah, come on. All right, so, okay, we talked about March 15th, 1 to 3 p.m., book signing. And this is the return of man, but I can't wait. Soon to come will be the How Do You Love a Fish?
How do you love a
bunch
fish?
of kids in the library, and I can't wait for that. All right, brother. Anything else you want to close out before we tell people where to find us?
This is awesome. I love the energy. I love I don't want to say confusion. There's a lot of balls in the air.
Yeah.
And that's good. A body in motion stays in motion.
Yeah.
Right? So get after it. Get out there. I'm excited to hear, Saturday, February 8th, right? The readout, the call to action, the poker chip.
Yeah.
Because in, maybe a positive way, you're letting the dog off the leash. Go.
Yeah.
Go do you.
Yeah.
Make an impact.
I would love to see, you kind of ring that bell, and there's an injustice, and then 50 guys walk in the room. It's a powerful thing. Mm-hmm. You can't get 5 dudes to the same thing, right? So to get 50 men to walk in and just stand, or sometimes like in the courtroom, I'm just asking. I said, usually I ask you to come stand. I'm asking you to come sit, Comfortable chair, just sit there and be counted. And it made a difference, right? I don't know how that thing's going to turn out, but I know there was an injustice. And when this was 35 men and women walked into a courtroom and sat down, the world took note, right? It was like this government building is usually empty, and it's not just randomly 35. 35 pretty powerful people came in, and some of them are some older ladies that are voices and stalwarts of this community. Other people look like they could rip your car apart, much less you, right? And it's amazing. And I can't wait to see when Christian men find their feet and they stop asking permission, right? Yeah. Except for one, right? It's like, has this been blessed? It has by God, right? So I'm not asking your permission, right? So I'm gonna do what I'm called to do. And if you don't like it, man, there's plenty of churches. But like I said, don't bail on churches. People say, I wasn't fed. Did you come hungry? Did you come hungry, right? And fix it, or at least be you. Be that son of God. That, people are like, the church is the problem, church is the problem. Well, if the church is the problem and you're being godly, every Sunday they got to look you in the eye and be like, that Christian dude's here. It's so awesome. You can't make this up. All right, ableshepherd.com is the website that connects it all together. YouTube on Able Shepherd. Protected Culture Podcast, where you can find this either on the video or on the audio podcast. And then Jimmy Graham. They're pushing me to do more stuff to get the brand, like my name recognition up. And it makes sense. I didn't think about it, right? People know Jocko Willink, right?
Yeah,
powerful SEAL guy. They might not know who Origin is. I do. Got that hoodie been wearing for weeks now. It's an awesome hoodie, man. It's called Heavy Half Zip. It's coming soon. They know who Sean Ryan is. Maybe they know Vigilance Elite. So those names, I didn't think of it that way because I don't think that way, right? But it makes sense, right? So Jimmy Graham on X, on Facebook, and on LinkedIn. So, right,
and I thought I heard something with Instagram that Seth may be.
Instagram is Able Shepherd. So yes, yeah. I'm sorry, I forgot that one. So Able Shepherd on YouTube, on Instagram, and on ableshepherd.com. Yeah, so that's it, man. Another one in the books. It's a good one. I'm on fire. I can't wait to see where this goes. Again, just like, and very different because I respect Officer Rex in Tennessee. It's like, if nobody else goes, I'm going, you're invited. That's the deal. So you can come with me, but I'm going, you're invited. And if you don't go, I'm still going. So don't try to get in the way. It's not a good idea, right? It's like, why would you, right? So, and this has been heavy on my heart this week when there's some kind of conflict. What would be glorifying to God? Spend more time in your Bible so there's a truer answer there. Be very, very careful. And I don't ever want to come across as I'm church bashing. I'm not. But there's a problem when you talk about it. And if men don't do it, who's going to do it, right? So there's a problem in the church today. In every church I've seen, every single one of them, right? So, and usually it's in the hearts of the men in the congregation. If we get that figured out and we start, again, we the people starts with me, the person. So I have to do it. I have to. I'm not asking permission. I suggest you don't either. So God bless each and every one of you. We truly love you. Take care of one another. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us again for another episode. Please be sure to follow us and support us on all of the social media. That's Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram. All of that starts by visiting ableshepherd.com.